I'm Aaron, 29, and I need to get this off my chest because what happened last Thursday at IHOP is still making me angry every time I think about it. Actually, no. I've been angry for years, but now I'm finally doing something about it. Quick background, so this makes sense. My family has always been weird about success and money. My dad worked in manufacturing his whole life, mom was a secretary, and they raised us in this middle-class bubble where they were obsessed with appearances and what the neighbors thought. My sister Scarlett is 32 and works in retail management. My brother Jackson is 27 and does something with insurance sales. Both of them are married with kids and live within 10 miles of our parents. They have the white picket fence life that mom and dad always wanted for all of us. Me? I'm single, no kids, and I work in software development. I've been with my company for 5 years now, started as a junior developer and worked my way up. I make good money, like really good money, but here's the thing. My family doesn't know that. They think I'm some basement-dwelling code monkey, barely scraping by because I don't talk about my job with them. Why would I? Every family gathering for the past 3 years has been them making little comments about when I'm going to get a real career, find a nice girl, buy a house like a normal person. I stopped going to most family events about 2 years ago. I'd show up for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and that was it. Every time I did show up, it was the same garbage. Scarlett would make comments about how her friends ask about me and she doesn't know what to tell them. Jackson would joke that he tells people he's an only child. Mom would sigh dramatically about wanting grandchildren from all her kids, not just two. Dad would just shake his head and change the subject whenever someone asked what I do for work. So when Mom texted me last Wednesday saying, "Family brunch at IHOP Sunday, 10 a.m. Your treat. Bring your wallet." I should have known something was up, but honestly, I thought maybe they wanted to make amends or something. Maybe actually have a normal conversation for once. Yeah, I know. I'm an idiot for thinking that. I showed up at IHOP at 9:55 a.m. They were already there, all four of them sitting in a booth looking like they were waiting for me. I should have turned around right then. The way they were sitting there with these serious expressions like they'd planned something. But I walked over and sat down. We ordered drinks, I got coffee, they all ordered juices and sodas. Then they started ordering food. Full meals, all of them. Dad got steak and eggs, Mom got the chicken and waffles. Scarlett ordered pancakes with extra sides. Jackson got this massive breakfast combo with everything. I ordered just coffee because I wasn't hungry and something felt wrong about the whole situation. We made small talk for maybe 5 minutes. Weather, traffic, nothing important. Then the food came and they all started eating. Nobody was really talking to me. They were just eating and occasionally glancing at each other like they were waiting for something. I drank my coffee and I waited because clearly this was building to something. Dad finished about half his steak and put down his fork. Then he looked right at me and started talking. He said they've been discussing me as a family and they needed to have an honest conversation. He said, "I'm 29 years old, still single, no serious relationship in sight, no house, and no real career to speak of." He said honestly, they're ashamed of how I turned out. I just sat there because what do you even say to that? But he kept going. He said when people ask about their kids, he talks about Scarlett's promotion at work and her two kids, and Jackson's new house and his son. But when they get to me, he doesn't know what to say. He said it's embarrassing to have a son pushing 30 with nothing to show for it. Scarlett jumped in then. She said when her friends ask about me, she tells them I moved to Alaska because it's less embarrassing than admitting I'm still in the same city doing nothing with my life. She actually said that, word for word, that it's less embarrassing to pretend I live in another state than to admit what I actually do. Jackson decided to pile on too. He said at family events with his wife's side. When they ask if he has siblings, he says he's an only child now. He said it's easier than explaining that his older brother is a disappointment who never grew up. Mom was quiet through all of this, but then she reached into her purse and pulled out some papers. She slid them across the table to me and said they're removing me from the family trust. She said these papers make it official. I started to actually look at them, but Dad interrupted me. He said not to bother reading them because I wasn't getting much anyway. Maybe $15,000 at most when they die. And they've decided Scarlett and Jackson deserve that money more since they actually did something with their lives. Then Mom added that they're selling the house and moving to Arizona. They bought a condo in Scottsdale, and they're moving in 6 weeks. She said they're not giving me the new address. This is their fresh start, and they want to do it without deadweight dragging them down. Scarlett actually asked me if I understood. She said they need this fresh start and they can't keep being embarrassed by me. She said maybe this will motivate me to finally get my life together. I sat there for maybe 10 seconds just processing what had happened. Then the waitress brought the check, $187. Dad pushed it across the table to me and said I told them this was my treat. I never said that. Mom's text said it was my treat, but I never agreed to that. But here's the thing. I'd been waiting for something like this. Not exactly this, but I knew eventually they'd push too far. I knew eventually there'd be a moment where I could either let them keep treating me like garbage or I could do something about it. So I'd prepared. I reached into my jacket and pulled out papers I'd had drawn up by a lawyer about 3 months ago. I'd been carrying them around, waiting for the right moment. I put them on the table and told them to sign before I paid for their meal. Dad asked what they were. I just said to sign them. They all looked at each other. Then Scarlett asked if this was some kind of joke. I told them I was serious. Sign the papers or I walk out and they can figure out the check themselves. Here's what the papers actually were. A formal family estrangement agreement. Basically, by signing, they were agreeing to never contact me again for any reason. No calls, no texts, no emails, no showing up at my place, nothing. They were acknowledging in writing that they were voluntarily cutting me out of their lives and agreeing to permanent no contact. It also included statements acknowledging what they'd just said to me, their reasons for removing me from the trust, and their decision to move without giving me their address. They barely read them. Dad skimmed the first page and said, "Fine, whatever." They all signed. Every single one of them. Mom, Dad, Scarlett, Jackson. They probably thought I was being dramatic, or maybe they just didn't care because they'd already decided they were done with me anyway. I pulled out $200 cash, put it on the table, and walked out without saying another word to any of them. That was Thursday morning. Thursday afternoon, I blocked all their numbers. Thursday evening, I blocked them on all social media. By Friday, I'd changed my locks because Dad had a spare key to my apartment from years ago when he'd helped me move in. Here's what they don't know. What they've never known because they never asked and I never told them. I make $185,000 a year. I have over $400,000 in savings and investments. I own my apartment outright, paid in cash 2 years ago. I've been investing heavily, and I'm on track to retire early if I want to. I could have helped them with their Arizona move. I could have helped with Scarlett's kids' college funds. I could have done a lot of things. But they never asked about my life. They just assumed because I don't have a wife and kids and a house in the suburbs that I'm failing at life. They made up this whole story about who I am, based on absolutely nothing. The papers they signed are legally binding. I had a lawyer draft them specifically for something like this. They agreed to no contact, and they acknowledged their reasons for cutting me off. Everything they said at IHOP is now in writing with their signatures on it. It's been 6 days since the IHOP thing. I haven't heard from them because they're blocked everywhere, and they signed an agreement saying they won't contact me. I assume they're busy planning their Arizona move and celebrating getting rid of their embarrassing son. What they're going to realize soon, and I know this is coming, is that their Arizona plan isn't as solid as they think it is. The condo they bought. I know about it because Mom posted about it on social media before I blocked her. I looked it up. It's in a development that's been having major construction issues, and the builder is being sued by multiple owners. But they don't know that because they don't do research. They just buy things because they like how they look. Also, Dad's planning to retire early to make the move. He's 62 and was going to work until 65, but he's pushing it up to move to Arizona. That's going to cut into their retirement income significantly. Mom's already retired. They're banking on selling the house for a good price, but the housing market in our area has been declining and they're going to get way less than they think. I'm not doing anything to interfere with their plans. I'm just sitting back and watching because I know what's coming. They're going to move to Arizona, realize they made a huge mistake, and then want to come back. Or they're going to need help with something and remember, they have a son who might be able to help them. And then they're going to realize they signed papers agreeing to never contact me. I know some people might think I should have just cut them off without the papers or the drama. But here's the thing. I needed it in writing. I needed them to acknowledge what they were doing and agree to it. Because I know my family. I know that in 6 months or a year when things go wrong, they're going to try to come back and act like none of this happened. They're going to call me and expect me to just forgive and forget because we're family. Not this time. This time, I have legal documentation of exactly what they said and did and what they agreed to. And I'm keeping it forever. Right now, I'm just waiting to see what happens next. I'm going to work every day, I'm living my life, and I'm doing absolutely fine without them. Better than fine, actually. I don't have to deal with their judgment or their comments or their embarrassment about me anymore. Part of me knows they're going to try to contact me eventually. They're going to find a way around the blocks or they're going to show up at my apartment. And when they do, I have those papers ready to remind them of exactly what they agreed to. I don't feel bad about any of this. I've spent years putting up with their garbage and I'm done. They wanted a fresh start without me? They got it. Permanently. Update 1. Okay, so it's been 3 weeks since the IHOP disaster, and I need to update because this situation has gone completely off the rails. For those who saw my first post, quick recap. Family humiliated me at IHOP, made me pay $187 after telling me, I'm an embarrassment. I had them sign a no-contact agreement before I paid, then blocked them everywhere. They don't know I make $185K and have my life completely together. First, thanks for all the comments on my original post. Some of you said I should have just walked out without paying, and honestly, you're right, but I needed them to sign those papers more than I needed to save $200. Some of you warned me they'd try to get around the agreement, and you were absolutely correct. Buckle up, because this gets messy. So, Tuesday of last week, 5 days after the IHOP thing, I'm at work in a meeting, and my desk phone rings. I never get calls on my desk phone. I mean, literally never. Everyone I work with uses Slack or email. I ignored it. It rang again 10 minutes later, and again 20 minutes after that. By the fourth time I picked up just to tell whoever it was to stop calling, it was Scarlett. My sister somehow got my work number. She started talking immediately, saying we need to discuss what happened at IHOP because there's been a misunderstanding. I asked her how she got this number, and she said she called the main line and asked to be transferred to me. Like, that's completely normal behavior. She kept talking. She said the papers I had them sign were a joke, right? Just me being dramatic? Because nobody takes those kinds of agreements seriously. She said family is family, and we can't just stop talking to each other over one argument. I reminded her that she told me to my face that she tells people I moved to Alaska because I'm too embarrassing to acknowledge. She said I was taking that out of context, and she didn't mean it the way it sounded. I asked her what context makes that statement okay. She got flustered and said I need to understand their perspective. They've been worried about me for years, watching me waste my potential, and they were trying to give me tough love. The IHOP thing was supposed to be a wake-up call to motivate me to improve my life. I asked her if removing me from the family trust was also tough love. She said that was Dad's idea, and she didn't really agree with it, but she wasn't going to argue with him about it. Then she said the real reason she was calling. They need me to sign something saying I agree. The estrangement papers aren't legally binding. She said their lawyer friend looked at them and said they might actually be enforceable, and Dad is worried about it. She said if I just sign a paper saying we're all good and those don't count, then we can all move forward. I told her no. She asked why I'm being so stubborn about this. I said because they signed an agreement saying they never want to contact me again, and now she's violating that agreement by calling me at work. She said that's ridiculous. The agreement was obviously signed under duress because I was holding the restaurant bill over their heads. I pointed out that nobody forced them to order $187 worth of food, and nobody forced them to sign papers they didn't bother reading. She got quiet for a second, then changed tactics. She said Mom is really upset about all of this. She's been crying every day because her baby boy won't talk to her. I asked Scarlett if Mom was crying when she said they weren't giving me their Arizona address because they wanted a fresh start without deadweight. Scarlett said I'm being cruel and bringing up things that were said in the heat of the moment. The heat of what moment? They planned that whole IHOP ambush. They coordinated it. They prepared papers to remove me from the trust. That wasn't heat of the moment, that was premeditated humiliation. But Scarlett just kept saying, I'm making this harder than it needs to be. I told her not to call my work number again and hung up. Then I went to HR and explained that a family member was harassing me at work and I needed my extension blocked from external transfers. The HR person was really understanding about it, said they could set it up so outside calls can't reach my direct line anymore. Thursday, 2 days after Scarlett's call, I'm at the gym after work. I go to the same gym 3 times a week, same time, because I like routine. I'm on the treadmill and I look over and Jackson is on the treadmill next to me, my brother, who lives 20 minutes away and has never been to this gym in his life. He acted like it was a complete coincidence. Said, hey man, didn't expect to see you here. What are the odds? I stopped my treadmill and asked him what he was doing. He said he's been thinking about joining this gym because it's close to his office. He was just checking it out. His office is in the complete opposite direction from this gym. I've been to his office for lunch before, I know where it is. I grabbed my stuff and went to leave. He followed me to the locker room, talking the whole time. He said, we need to have a conversation man to man about what happened. He said, I embarrassed the whole family by making them sign those papers, and now Dad is threatening to cut him and Scarlett out of the trust too, because he's so angry about the whole situation. I asked him why Dad would cut them out, and Jackson said because Dad thinks they should have stopped me from leaving IHOP without resolving things properly. So now it's my fault that Dad might punish them? I said that sounds like a Dad problem, not my problem. Jackson got frustrated and said I need to stop being selfish for once. He said the Arizona move is happening in 4 weeks and Mom wants to make peace before they leave. I asked him why she doesn't call me herself if she wants to make peace. He said because I blocked her number. That's when I realized they've been comparing notes about all the ways I've blocked them. They've been trying different approaches to get around the no contact thing, testing what still works. The work phone was Scarlett's idea. The gym ambush was Jackson's idea. I asked him what mom and dad's ideas are, and he got uncomfortable. He said I should just come to Sunday dinner this week and we can all talk about it like adults. I told him I'm not coming to Sunday dinner, and I'm not signing anything that invalidates the agreement they already signed. He said I'm being unreasonable and immature. I said that's fine, they can think whatever they want about me from Arizona. Then I left the gym. I got a new gym membership at a different location the next day. I'm not playing this game where they ambush me at places I regularly go. Saturday morning, I'm at the grocery store. I'm in the produce section looking at apples when I hear Mom's voice behind me. She found me at the grocery store. She's saying, "Aaron, honey, we need to talk. Please just give me 5 minutes." I turned around and she's standing there with this sad expression, and Dad is with her standing a few feet back. Mom started talking fast like she'd rehearsed it. She said they made mistakes at IHOP. They said things they didn't mean. They were trying to push me to be better, but they went about it the wrong way. She said they love me, and they're sorry if I felt hurt by what they said. Notice she said sorry if I felt hurt, not sorry for what they did. Dad stayed quiet at first, just standing there with his arms crossed. Mom kept talking. She said they're not really moving to Arizona without giving me the address. That was just something she said because she was frustrated with me. She said, of course, I can have their address. I'm their son. She said the trust thing can be fixed, too. They were just trying to make a point. I asked what point they were trying to make. She said they wanted me to understand that actions have consequences, and I need to start taking my life seriously. I asked her, what about my life isn't serious? She looked confused and said, well, I'm not married. I don't have a house. I don't have a stable career. I asked her how she knows my career isn't stable. She said because I never talk about it, so it must not be going well. That's when I realized they've created this entire narrative about my life based on absolutely nothing. They decided I'm failing because I don't share details with them, and because I don't live the exact life they think I should live. I asked Mom point blank what she thinks I do for work. She said she thinks I do something with computers, but she's not really sure. I've been at the same company for 5 years and she doesn't even know what I do. Dad finally spoke up. He said that's exactly the problem. I never tell them anything about my life, so how are they supposed to know how I'm doing? I said maybe if they asked questions instead of making assumptions and insults, I might tell them things. He said he shouldn't have to ask. I should volunteer information because that's what family does. I told them both that they signed an agreement not to contact me and they need to respect that. Mom said those papers don't mean anything. I was just being dramatic. I said they're legally binding and they acknowledged in writing that they voluntarily chose to cut me out of their lives. Dad said I manipulated them into signing under false pretenses. I asked what false pretenses. He said I made them think I wouldn't pay the bill unless they signed. I reminded him that he literally said the brunch was my treat and pushed the check toward me. He said that was just a figure of speech, and I knew that. I said nothing about that morning was a figure of speech. They meant every word they said. Mom started crying and said I'm being cruel and vindictive. Dad said I'm acting like a child and I need to grow up and move past this. People were staring at us in the grocery store. I walked away and left my half-full cart right there in the produce section. They didn't follow me out to the parking lot, probably because they'd made enough of a scene already. That was Saturday. Sunday morning, I woke up to find out from my apartment building's group chat that someone tried to get into the building claiming to be my family. The front desk staff didn't let them up, because I'd already told building management that I had a family situation and nobody should be allowed up to my floor without me approving it first. The doorman said it was an older man and a woman, which would be my parents. So now they're trying to show up at my apartment. And this is where I need to mention something I found out completely by accident. Tuesday night, I couldn't sleep, so I was scrolling through real estate listings, which is something I do sometimes just to see what's on the market. I put in Scottsdale, Arizona as the location just out of curiosity to see what their condo development looks like. Their building has 17 units for sale. 17? Out of maybe 80 total units in the complex. The reviews are brutal. Construction defects, water damage, foundation issues, HOA lawsuits everywhere. The builder went bankrupt and left multiple projects unfinished. The units are selling for 30% less than they were listed for a year ago. My parents bought in that development 4 months ago. They probably paid close to asking price because they don't do research. They just see something pretty and buy it. Now they're sitting on a condo that's worth way less than they paid, in a building that's falling apart with an HOA that's drowning in legal fees. And they're supposed to move there in 3.5 weeks. I'm not telling them any of this. They're going to figure it out on their own when they get down there and realize what they bought. But this explains why they're suddenly so desperate to fix things with me. They're starting to realize the Arizona plan might not be the dream retirement they thought it was, and they want to make sure they have backup options. Here's what I think is happening. I think they talked to a lawyer about the estrangement agreement, and the lawyer told them it's enforceable. I think they're realizing they legally cut themselves off from their son who they might need help from later. I think they're panicking because their perfect Arizona retirement is turning into a money pit, and they don't have as much financial cushion as they thought they did because Dad retired early. And I think they're mad that I won't just let it go and pretend nothing happened so they can have access to me again on their terms. The thing is, I spent years listening to them criticize me and put me down. Years of showing up to family events and being treated like the disappointment. Years of them making assumptions about my life and never once just asking me how I'm actually doing. They wanted to cut me off. Great. They did it. They made it official with their signatures. Now they want to take it back because it's not convenient anymore. But that's not how this works. They don't get to treat me like garbage when they think they don't need me, then suddenly change their minds when their situation changes. I'm not signing anything that invalidates those papers. I'm not going to Sunday dinner. I'm not giving them my new gym location. I'm not having a conversation with them at my apartment or my workplace or random grocery stores. They agreed to no contact and I'm enforcing it. Some of you commented on my first post asking what happens when they actually need help. Well, we're about to find out. They're moving to Arizona in less than a month to a condo that's worth 30% less than they paid for it, in a complex with massive problems. Dad retired early, so their income is reduced, and they have no way to contact their son who could actually help them because they signed papers agreeing never to contact him again. I've been waiting for them to realize what they did. Now they're realizing it. And I'm watching it happen. Update 2. 6 weeks since IHOP. 2 weeks since my last update. And holy hell, you guys were right, it got so much worse. For them, not for me. I'm doing great, but I need to tell you what's been happening because this whole situation has spiraled in ways I didn't even anticipate. First, quick response to some comments from my last post. Yes, I know some of you think I should just talk to them and clear the air. I appreciate the advice, but no. They spent years making me feel like garbage, and then orchestrated a public humiliation at a restaurant, specifically to tell me how ashamed they are of me. The estrangement papers stay in place. To those who said they'd definitely violate the no-contact agreement, you were completely right, keep reading. So they moved to Arizona. The move happened 2 weeks ago on a Friday. I only know this because I have a Ring doorbell notification sharing thing set up with my neighbor Diego across the hall, and he texted me that weekend asking if my parents moved because they'd stopped by looking for me. I told him yes and to please not let them up if they come back. He said no problem. He'd already told them I wasn't home, and he didn't know when I'd be back. That means they drove or flew back from Arizona specifically to try to see me. They'd been in their new place for less than 48 hours, and they were already back here trying to get to me. Diego said Dad seemed stressed and Mom looked like she'd been crying. He said they stood in the hallway for almost 10 minutes after he said I wasn't home, like they were hoping I'd magically appear. I didn't reach out. I didn't respond. They made their choice at IHOP and signed papers acknowledging it. If they're having regrets, that's their problem to deal with. But here's where things get really interesting. Remember how I mentioned Scarlett and Jackson in previous posts? My sister and brother who both happily participated in the IHOP humiliation and later tried to ambush me to get me to sign papers invalidating the estrangement agreement. Well, they're now dealing with the fallout of Mom and Dad's terrible decision-making, and they're big mad about it. Last Wednesday, I'm at work and I get a LinkedIn message from Jackson. Yes, LinkedIn. He found me on LinkedIn because I never blocked him there, since I only use it for professional networking and didn't think he'd be smart enough to try that route. The message was long and ranty. He said he needs to talk to me about a family emergency and I need to respond immediately. I didn't respond, but I read it. The gist was that Mom and Dad are freaking out in Arizona because the condo has major problems they didn't know about. The AC doesn't work properly. There's a leak in the bathroom and the HOA is demanding a special assessment of $15,000 per unit for emergency repairs to the building's foundation. They apparently had an inspector look at the place before they bought it, but he missed or didn't disclose a bunch of issues. Jackson's message said Mom and Dad are asking him and Scarlett for money to help cover the assessment. He said they can't afford it because they just bought a new SUV 3 months ago and Scarlett's oldest kid needs braces. He said I need to step up and help them because they're family and they're in trouble. The audacity, the absolute audacity of this man to message me asking for money on behalf of the parents who publicly declared me an embarrassment and cut me out of their trust. I screenshot the message and saved it, but I didn't respond. 2 days later, Friday evening, I'm getting takeout from this Thai place near my apartment. I'm waiting for my order when Scarlett walks in. She sees me immediately and walks right over. I know she didn't follow me there because I decided to get Thai food like 10 minutes before I left my apartment. this was a coincidence, which made it worse because I couldn't even accuse her of stalking me. She said, "We need to talk, and I need to stop being stubborn about this." I told her we have nothing to talk about and she needs to respect the no contact agreement. She said the agreement is stupid and immature, and I'm punishing the whole family because my feelings got hurt. I asked her if she's forgotten what she said to me at IHOP. She said she was just being honest, and I needed to hear the truth even if it was harsh. That's when I understood something. She genuinely doesn't think what they did was wrong. In her mind, they were doing me a favor by giving me tough love, and I'm the bad guy for not appreciating their concern. She said everyone is stressed out because of mom and dad's situation, and I'm making it worse by refusing to help. I asked her why I should help people who told me to my face that they're ashamed of me. She said because they're our parents, and that's what you do. You help your parents when they need it. Regardless of what happened in the past, I said no. What you do is treat people with respect so that when you need help later, they're willing to give it. She said, I'm being petty and vindictive. My food came up and I took it and walked out. She followed me to the parking lot, still talking. She said dad is having panic attacks about money, and mom is depressed and barely leaving the condo. She said the Arizona move was supposed to be their dream retirement, and it's turned into a nightmare in less than 2 weeks. She said Jackson and her can't afford to help them, and they need me to contribute to the special assessment fund. I asked her how much they need total. She said the assessment is $15,000, but mom and dad also need help with some other expenses because the move cost more than they budgeted, and dad's retirement income is less than they calculated. Altogether, they probably need about $25,000 to get stable again. She said if the three of us split it, that's only about $8,000 each. Only $8,000 each. Like that's nothing. Like I should just hand over 8 grand to people who removed me from their trust because I'm such a disappointment. I told Scarlett I'm not giving them any money. She asked why I'm being so cruel. I said I'm not being cruel, I'm respecting the boundary they established. They wanted a fresh start without me, they got it. She called me selfish and said I make good money so I can afford to help. I asked her how she knows what I make. She said everyone knows tech jobs pay well, and I'm clearly doing fine based on my apartment and car. So she's been making assumptions about my finances just like they've been making assumptions about my life this whole time. I got in my car and left. She stood there in the parking lot and I could see her in my rearview mirror on her phone, probably calling Jackson or mom to tell them I refuse to help. Here's the thing that's really getting to me. They genuinely believe I'm obligated to help them. They think that because we're related, I should just forget about IHOP and the years of criticism and the trust fund thing and hand over thousands of dollars to fix their mistakes. They think I'm the problem for holding a grudge. But this isn't about holding a grudge. This is about natural consequences. They treated me terribly. They formalized cutting me out of their lives with signatures on legal papers, and now they're surprised that I'm not rushing to help them when things go wrong. They wanted me out of the family? Congratulations, you succeeded. Now deal with your problems without me. Saturday afternoon, Diego texted me again. Jackson had been to the building looking for me. Diego told him I wasn't home, and Jackson asked if Diego knew where I usually am on Saturday afternoons. Diego told him no and suggested he try calling me. Jackson apparently said I blocked his number, and Diego said, well, that sounds like a personal problem, and closed the door on him. Diego is the best neighbor ever. After that text, he sent another one saying he wanted me to know that Jackson seemed really agitated and mentioned something about family finances. Diego asked if everything was okay and if I needed him to do anything. I told him everything was fine, it's just family drama, and I appreciated him not giving them information about me. Sunday evening, I broke my own rule and looked at Scarlett's social media through a browser without logging in. I know I said I blocked them everywhere and I wasn't going to check up on them, but I needed to know what they were saying. Her most recent post was from Saturday, and it was a vague thing about how some people choose money over family, and it's sad when people forget what really matters in life. The comments were mostly from her friends, saying things like, sorry, you're going through this and sending prayers. But there were a couple comments from people who seemed to know what was going on. One person said something about how adult children have no obligation to fund their parents' poor choices. Scarlett replied to that saying it's not about funding poor choices, it's about helping family in crisis, so she's putting our family business on social media now, making me look like the bad guy who won't help his struggling parents. The thing is, most of her friends don't know the context. They don't know about IHOP. They don't know about years of being told I'm not good enough. They just see her narrative about parents in need and an ungrateful son. I don't care. Let her tell whatever story she wants. The people who matter know the truth, and the people who don't matter don't need to know. Monday morning, I got a message through LinkedIn from someone I didn't know. The profile picture was a woman, maybe in her 50s. The message said she's my mom's friend Bryn from their old book club, and she wanted to reach out because Mom had mentioned to her that the family was going through a difficult time. She said she understood there had been some kind of disagreement and she hoped everyone could work through it because life is too short for family feuds. I deleted the message and blocked her. I don't know if Mom asked her to reach out or if she took it upon herself, but either way, it's another attempt to get around the no-contact agreement. They're recruiting friends now to guilt-trip me into responding. Tuesday, I'm at my new gym, the one I switched to after Jackson ambushed me at the old one. I'm doing my workout and my phone buzzes with a text from a number I don't recognize. Local area code. The message said this is Layla, Scarlett's friend, and Scarlett gave me your number because she's worried about you and wants to make sure you're okay. I blocked the number immediately, but it made me realize they're getting other people to text me now. They're giving out my number to friends and asking them to contact me on their behalf. This is escalating in ways that are actually starting to concern me. Wednesday morning, my building manager called me. Someone had filed a complaint with the building saying I was harassing my family by refusing to let them visit me. The building manager wanted to confirm that I had actually requested my family not be allowed up without my permission. I confirmed it and told her there's a family dispute and I have legal documentation of a no-contact agreement. She said that's fine, she just needed to verify, and the complaint was noted and dismissed. So now they're trying to use building management against me. They're filing complaints to try to force the building to let them up to my apartment. The building manager said she'd make a note in my file about the situation and staff would continue to deny them access. This whole situation is absolutely insane. It's been 6 weeks since IHOP, and instead of accepting the boundary they agreed to, they've escalated to workplace calls, gym ambushes, grocery store confrontations, apartment building attempts, LinkedIn messages, recruiting friends to text me, and filing false complaints with my building. And the entire reason for all of this is because their Arizona dream turned into an expensive nightmare, and they need money. That's what this comes down to. If their condo was perfect and they weren't facing a $15,000 assessment plus other expenses, I genuinely don't think they'd be trying this hard to contact me. They'd be happily settled in Scottsdale enjoying their retirement without their embarrassing son. But they need money, and they think I have it, so suddenly I'm worth reaching out to. Suddenly, the estrangement papers don't matter. Suddenly, family is important again. I have about $420,000 in savings and investments now. I could write them a check for $25,000 and barely notice it in my accounts. But I'm not going to. Not because I can't afford it, but because they need to learn that you can't treat people like garbage and then expect them to bail you out when you need help. They made a choice at IHOP. They chose to publicly humiliate me, remove me from their trust, and tell me they were moving without giving me their address. They formalized that choice with their signatures. Now they're living with the consequences of that choice. And those consequences include not having access to their son who could easily afford to help them. I'm not the villain in this story. I'm just someone who finally stopped accepting mistreatment from people who are supposed to love me. Final update, 10 weeks since IHOP. This is my final update because the situation has reached its conclusion and I'm moving on with my life. But you all need to hear how this ended because it's exactly what I wanted and somehow even better than I planned. Shout out to everyone who commented on my previous posts. To those who said my family would eventually show up in person and force a confrontation, you were absolutely right. To those who said I should just tell them how much money I make to shut them up, I did. Keep reading. And to the few people who kept saying I should forgive them and help them anyway, because family is family, I respect your opinion but hard disagree. 3 weeks ago, Tuesday morning, I'm working from home because I had an early meeting with our West Coast team. Around 10 a.m., my doorbell camera alerts me that someone's at my apartment door. I check the feed, and it's all 4 of them. Mom, Dad, Scarlett, and Jackson, standing in my hallway outside my door. I have no idea how they got past the front desk this time, but they did. They're knocking. I can hear it through the door and see it on the camera. I let them knock for about 2 minutes while I decided what to do. I could ignore them, and they'd eventually leave. Or I could open the door and have the conversation that's been building for 10 weeks. I chose the conversation because I was tired of the ambushes and the workarounds and the friend recruitment and all of it. Time to end this permanently. I opened the door and stood in the doorway blocking the entrance. Dad started talking immediately. He said they drove 16 hours from Arizona because this situation has gotten out of control, and we need to settle it face to face like adults. I asked him how they got past the front desk. Jackson said they told the new desk person they were my family, and it was an emergency and she let them up. I made a mental note to talk to building management about that later. Mom looked terrible. I'm not saying that to be mean. She genuinely looked like she hadn't slept in days. She said they need to talk to me about everything that's happened and I need to let them inside. I said no. We can talk right here in the hallway. They're not coming into my apartment. Scarlett said I'm being ridiculous and childish. I said they signed papers agreeing to never contact me, and they violated that agreement about 20 times now. Dad said those papers don't mean anything, and he's consulted with 3 different lawyers who all said it's not really enforceable. I asked him if 3 different lawyers all told him the same thing. Why is he so desperate to get me to invalidate the agreement? He didn't have an answer for that. The truth is, at least one of those lawyers probably told him it is enforceable, and that's why they've been panicking for the past 2 months. Mom started crying. She said they made mistakes at IHOP and they've been trying to apologize, but I won't give them a chance. I asked her what specifically she's apologizing for. She said, for hurting my feelings. Not for what she said, but for hurting my feelings. I told her that's not an apology. That's just sorry I'm upset about the terrible things they said to me. Jackson jumped in and said we don't have time for this back and forth. They need to discuss the money situation. He said the special assessment in Arizona is due in 3 weeks, and if they don't pay it, the HOA can put a lien on the condo. He said Mom and Dad need $15,000 for that, plus another $8,000 for other expenses, and the 3 of us kids need to split it. I asked why I would give money to people who removed me from their trust because I'm such a disappointment. Scarlett said the trust thing was a mistake, and Dad already reversed it. I asked when he reversed it. Dad said last week. So they removed me from the trust when they thought they didn't need me, and added me back when they realized they did need me. I asked Dad if he really thinks that makes it better. He said, I'm deliberately misunderstanding the situation. That's when I decided to just lay it all out. I told them I make $185,000 a year. I told them I have over $420,000 in savings and investments. I told them I own my apartment outright, paid in cash. I told them I could write them a check for $25,000 right now and barely notice the money gone from my account. The hallway went completely quiet. All 4 of them just stared at me. Mom asked if I'm telling the truth. I pulled out my phone and showed them my investment account balance. Over $420,000, right there on the screen. Scarlett said something like, how is that possible? I told them I've been working in software development for 5 years. I'm senior level now. I live below my means, and I invest aggressively. This isn't new. I've been doing well for years. They just never asked. Dad said if I've been making that much money, then why didn't I tell them? I asked him when he ever asked. I asked him when any of them ever asked about my actual job or my actual life instead of just assuming I was failing. He said he shouldn't have to ask. I should volunteer that information. I said that's not how conversations work. You can't spend years telling someone they're a disappointment and then expect them to share their success stories with you. Mom was still stuck on the money number. She kept saying $420,000 like she couldn't process it. Jackson asked why I let them think I was struggling, if I was actually doing so well. I told him I never said I was struggling. They just decided I was and never bothered to check if their assumption was correct. Scarlett said this doesn't make sense. I never acted like someone with money. I asked her what someone with money acts like. She didn't have an answer. Then Dad's whole demeanor changed. He said if I have that much money, then there's no reason I can't help them with the Arizona situation. In fact, I have an obligation to help them since they raised me and paid for my life until I was an adult. I told him that's what parents are supposed to do, raise their kids. It's not a loan that needs to be repaid. He said family helps family, and I'm being selfish by hoarding money while they struggle. I asked him if he remembers what he said to me at IHOP. He said they've been over this already and they apologized. I said no. They said sorry for hurting my feelings, which isn't the same thing. I asked him to repeat what he actually said to me that morning. He refused. I asked Scarlett to repeat what she said about telling her friends I moved to Alaska. She said she doesn't remember exactly what she said. I asked Jackson to repeat his line about being an only child. He said that was a joke and I'm taking it too seriously. So I repeated it all for them. Every single thing they said, word for word. I told them Dad said he's ashamed of how I turned out. Mom slid papers across the table, removing me from the trust. Scarlett said pretending I'm in Alaska is less embarrassing than the truth. Jackson said he tells people he's an only child. Mom said they're moving to Arizona without giving me the address because they want a fresh start without deadweight. I asked them if they remember any of that now. Dad said I'm being dramatic, and that's not exactly how it happened. I pulled out my copy of the estrangement agreement they signed, the one where they acknowledged saying all of those things. I read their own words back to them from the document they signed. Dad tried to grab it from my hands, and I stepped back into my apartment. He said I manipulated them into signing that under duress. I said asking someone to sign papers before you pay their restaurant bill isn't duress. It's a condition. They could have refused. They could have paid their own bill. They chose to sign. Mom asked why I'm doing this to them. She said they're my parents and they love me and they need help and I'm turning my back on them over something that happened weeks ago. I told her it's not about IHOP. It's about years of criticism, years of being made to feel like I wasn't good enough, Years of them never asking about my life or caring about what I was actually doing. IHOP was just the final straw that let me make a clean break. Scarlett said I'm punishing them for being honest with me. I asked her how telling people I moved to Alaska when I didn't is being honest. She said she meant they were honest about their feelings about my life choices. I told her my life choices have led to financial stability and success, while their life choices have led to a nightmare condo in Arizona with a $15,000 assessment due. Maybe they should focus on their own choices before judging mine. That's when Jackson got aggressive. He said I'm being a smug jerk and rubbing my success in their faces when they're struggling. He said the least I could do is help them since I clearly don't need all that money. I asked him where he gets off telling me what to do with my money. He said because family takes care of each other. I reminded him that he tells people he's an only child, so by his own definition, I'm not family. Dad tried a different approach. He said they made mistakes and they're trying to make it right, and I need to accept their apology and move forward. I asked him what specific actions they're taking to make it right besides adding me back to the trust so I can bail them out financially. He said they're here right now trying to fix the relationship. I told him showing up at my apartment demanding money isn't fixing the relationship. It's confirming everything I already knew about how they view me. Mom said something about how she carried me for 9 months and raised me, and this is how I repay her. I told her raising your kid isn't something that needs to be repaid. It's the minimum expectation of being a parent. She said I'm being cruel. I said I'm being honest, which is apparently what this family values, according to Scarlett. We went in circles for probably 30 minutes. Every time I made a point, one of them would deflect or change the subject or try to guilt trip me. Dad kept coming back to the money. He said $23,000 split among the three of us kids is only about $7,700 each, and I wouldn't even miss that amount. I told him I'm not giving them money. He asked why not. I said because they spent years treating me like a failure, and I don't reward that behavior with financial support. Scarlett said I'm holding a grudge and it's unhealthy. I told her it's not a grudge, it's a boundary. They established that they don't want me in their lives unless I meet their specific standards, and I'm accepting their decision. She said that's not what they meant. I said they literally put it in writing and signed it. Jackson tried to tell me that everyone says things they don't mean when they're frustrated, and I need to let it go. I asked him if he's let go of all the things people have said to him when they were frustrated. He said that's different. I asked how. He said because they're our parents and I'm being unreasonable. I told him no, I'm being consistent. They set a boundary by cutting me out. I'm maintaining that boundary by staying cut out. Mom asked what it would take for me to forgive them and help them. I told her nothing because I don't want them in my life anymore. She said I don't mean that. I said I absolutely mean that. She said someday I'll regret this when they're gone and I'll wish I had this time back with them. I told her I won't regret enforcing healthy boundaries with people who treated me poorly. Dad finally lost his temper. He said I'm being stubborn and spiteful, and I'm going to regret this when they lose the condo and have to move back here with nothing. I told him they're not losing the condo because they can sell it, take the loss, and find a cheaper place. He said they'll lose at least $40,000 if they sell now. I said that sounds like a consequence of not doing proper research before buying. He said I'm enjoying watching them suffer. I said I'm not enjoying it, I'm just not stopping it. Scarlett accused me of planning all of this. She said I had those papers ready at IHOP, which means I was waiting for an opportunity to cut them off. I told her she's absolutely right. I'd been waiting for years for them to push me too far, and IHOP was that moment. She said, that's psychotic. I said, it's strategic. There's a difference. Mom tried one more time. She said she knows they hurt me and she's sorry, really truly sorry. And can we please just start over and rebuild the relationship? I asked her if she's sorry because she actually regrets what she said, or because she needs money and realized I have it. She said that's not fair. I said answer the question. She said she's sorry for both things. I told her that's not how apologies work. That's when I told them to leave. I said this conversation is over. They need to go back to Arizona. And they need to stop contacting me through any method. Dad said, we're not done talking. I said, yes, we are. And I closed the door. They stood outside knocking and talking for a few minutes, but I didn't respond. Eventually, they left. I immediately called building management and explained that my family gained access by lying about an emergency. The manager apologized and said they'd send a memo to all desk staff that my family is not to be allowed up under any circumstances. She also said they'd put a note in the system that flags my apartment number, so desk staff will see it immediately when someone asks to visit me. That afternoon, I got a series of texts from Jackson using a different number. He said I'm making a huge mistake and I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life because I'm choosing money over family. He said when mom and dad die, I'll have nobody. I blocked that number too. Then I got a text from Scarlett, also from a new number, saying basically the same thing. Blocked. Then I got a text from a number with an Arizona area code. It was Dad. He said he's disappointed in the person I've become, and he doesn't understand how he raised someone so selfish and cold. He said the $15,000 is due in 2 weeks, and if they don't pay it, they'll have to sell the condo at a massive loss, and it will be my fault. I blocked that number. Mom's text came a few hours later, also from a new Arizona number. She said she's heartbroken, and she'll never stop loving me even though I've turned my back on her. She said she'll pray for me to find compassion. I blocked that number too. Over the next few days, I got maybe 15 more texts from various numbers, all of them saying versions of the same thing. I'm selfish, I'm cruel, I'm gonna regret this. It's my fault if they lose money, they'll never forgive me, I'm no longer welcome at family events, whatever. I blocked every single number. Last week I got a text from Diego asking if everything was okay because he'd heard yelling in the hallway a few weeks ago. I told him it was handled and thanked him for looking out for me. He said if I need anything to let him know. Diego is seriously the best neighbor ever. I also got an email at work from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line said important family information. I reported it to IT without opening it and had them block the domain. If they're going to try to contact me through work email now, I'm not even reading it. Yesterday, I checked Scarlett's social media one last time through a private browser. Her most recent post was from 3 days ago. It said sometimes you realize people aren't who you thought they were, and you have to accept that and move on. The comments were full of people asking if she's okay and offering support. Someone asked what happened, and she replied that family drama isn't for social media, but she's learning who her real support system is. So now I'm the villain in her story, the evil brother who abandoned the family in their time of need. I'm fine with that. The people who actually know me know the truth. As for Mom and Dad's Arizona situation, I have no idea what happened with the special assessment. Maybe they sold the condo at a loss. Maybe they borrowed money from someone else. Maybe the HOA gave them an extension. Maybe they're still there trying to make it work. I don't know and I don't care. That's not my problem to solve. What I do know is that I haven't received any contact from any of them in 5 days. The text stopped. The new phone number stopped. The friend recruitment stopped. Either they finally accepted the boundary or they found another solution to their problems that doesn't involve me. Either way, I'm good with it. I'm done with all of them. Mom, Dad, Scarlett, Jackson. They wanted me out of their lives. They got it. Permanently. They wanted a fresh start in Arizona without their embarrassing son. They have it. They wanted to remove me from the trust because I wasn't worth including? Fine, I don't want their trust money anyway because I have way more than they'll ever leave behind. The thing that nobody seems to understand is that this isn't about revenge. This is about self-respect. I spent years accepting their criticism and judgment because I thought that's what you do with family. You tolerate it because they're blood. But blood doesn't give anyone the right to treat you poorly and expect you to keep coming back for more. They showed me exactly who they are at IHOP. They told me in explicit detail that they're ashamed of me and they want me out of their lives. I believed them. I took them at their word. And now they're mad that I actually listened to what they said and acted accordingly. The estrangement papers were the best thing I ever did. They're a physical reminder of what they said and what they agreed to. Every time they try to come back, every time they try to act like it didn't happen, I have proof, written proof with their signatures. They can't rewrite history when I have documentation. Looking back at the past 10 weeks, I have zero regrets. Would I have handled IHOP differently if I could do it over? No. Would I have responded to any of their contact attempts? No. Would I help them financially if they genuinely apologized and made real amends? At this point, still no. Because the time for genuine apologies was before they needed money, not after. They created this situation. They executed it at IHOP. They signed the papers. And now, they're living with consequences they didn't expect because they underestimated me and overestimated their own position. That's on them. I'm 29 years old. I make $185,000 a year. I have over $420,000 saved and invested. I own my apartment. I'm debt-free. I have a good job that I enjoy. I have friends and coworkers who actually respect me. I have a life that I built on my own terms without needing their approval or their involvement. And I'm completely, totally, absolutely done with my family. This is my final update because there's nothing left to update. The story's over. They wanted me gone, and I'm gone. Everyone got exactly what they wanted.